Hi guys, I'm making this video to help you with your at-home dissection of your hearts. First, make sure you have everything together and you're ready to go. Before we cut our heart, you need to identify some important structures on the outside of the heart. First step, figure out what's top and bottom, what's left and right. Of course, the top is easy to find. You're going to see these odd-looking flaps here on both sides, little flaps. There's another piece of it here. These flaps are going to be your, turn it over so you can see them again. See the little flaps? That's your auricles. So that's going to be the top. And if I pull it up where you can see the bottom, see how pointy it is? So that's your inferior region, the apex. To figure out what's left and right, inside of the body, the heart sits a little bit like this with apex pointing left. Notice how the left side of the heart is much larger, left side here. So that's left. Right side, much smaller. Left side's where you're going to have your apex. Area where you have some fat collecting here, that's your atrioventricular or coronary sulcus. Once you've identified that, of course, you then need to realize the outside of your heart is made of your pericardium. Can't really pick it out, but that's what it's made of. Okay? So now that I know the area on this side is the left side, it's larger, then this auricle is going to be my left auricle. On the other side, this auricle, which on my little heart I happen to pick out, it's kind of bent, but it should be flat, that's your right auricle. There's always a large vessel in the center of the two auricles. This is the pulmonary artery. If you stick your probe or your finger down into that pulmonary artery, you would see that it goes pretty good ways down because it goes down into the right ventricle. Remember, the right ventricle is going to pump blood out of the heart, out the pulmonary artery. Then you can't see it, but what would happen is the vessel would then come to the top, split, go to the right and left lungs. Directly behind that pulmonary artery is a very large opening, the vessel here. This is the opening for the aorta. Now, in your body, the aorta comes up, arches over, and you have several branches coming off of the aorta, but you can't see any of that with these organs that you're dissecting because it's cut just so that you can only see the aorta. Again, to make sure you're right, take your probe or your finger. You notice it will go all the way down in the heart because the aorta is coming out of the left ventricle, pumping blood to the body. Then if I flip around, and now we're looking at the back side of the heart. Here's that same aorta I was just looking at. Notice over here, now this is going to be the right side now because I flipped the heart around. I have another opening, and if you stick your finger or your probe down in that opening, hang on a second, let me get it in there, here we go. Stick it down in that opening, it actually comes out the bottom. So again, aorta's here. This is auricle on this side. This is going to represent your vena cava. The top portion of it would be the superior vena cava, the bottom portion, the inferior vena cava. Then the last set of vessels you need to find will be over here. These are your pulmonary veins. Now, in the human body, this pulmonary vein would come out, branch, and you'd have some blood flowing through the left pulmonary veins back to the heart from the left lung, and you'd have right pulmonary veins coming back. But you can't see all of that. You just have one opening going into this area that's going to be your pulmonary veins. Once you get all of that down pat, you then need to cut your heart open. So I'm going to hold it up and show you just one side. Once you get the heart open, first step, what's left, what's right. Okay? All of this region here is the myocardium. The area in the center is called the interventricular septum. But this thick region is the actual cardiac muscle that makes up the heart. The thickest area here surrounds the left ventricle. The much smaller area here surrounds the right ventricle. If we focus on this left ventricle, we can see these large bumpy regions. Those are the papillary muscles in which the little chordae tendineae, these little tendons, are attached. The tendons go from the papillary muscle up to a valve. Since this is the left side of the heart, the left ventricle, this will be your mitral valve or your bicuspid valve. If we come over and look for the same things in the right ventricle, we'll see papillary muscles, we'll see the cords, the chordae tendineae, and you'll see a valve there. But since we're in the right ventricle, this is going to be a tricuspid valve. Coming back to our left ventricle, we can follow the vessel that comes out, and the vessel that comes out of the heart is the aorta. You can even check, make sure that it is coming out the correct place. We have valves that protect the exits of the ventricles into the larger vessels. These are called semilunar valves. So this is going to be the aortic semilunar valve. If I can get both of these in the picture at the same time, one of the hardest things for students is figuring out what's left and right. Because when you cut it open, the left and right are on different sides, it looks like. But what you're always looking for, show you the other one just to prove it to you, is the largest area. The biggest area, myocardium, so that's my left ventricle. Mitral valve, right ventricle, tricuspid valve, aorta coming out, so aortic semilunar valves. If you wanted to see the pulmonary semilunar valves, you'd have to cut a little further into this guy, right ventricle over here, and then actually will be on this side the way I have this heart cut. But you could go into your right ventricle and find where it comes out, the pulmonary artery, and then you'd be able to find that pulmonary semilunar valve. The most important thing for you to do with your heart is really play with it and explore it. If you have any questions, let me know.